Thank you, everyone, for joining the Office of Undergraduate Research and our education series. You're joining live for the Leveraging Your Research in Industry panel event. We are so excited to introduce to you all of our speakers and our facilitators. But before we get started, there's a couple of things that we want to remind our folks about. This is a virtual event that we are recording. And if we have questions, folks may use the chat feature to ask questions. We'll also field the questions that we received in advance to share with our panelists. We're super excited to get to the many questions we have for us. For our students who are Office of Undergraduate Research Scholars that are funded through the ARUP program, so we encourage you to fill out the evaluation. We'll drop that into the chat. As well as if you're joining us late, it is something that we use to take credit for your attendance. So please make sure if you end up joining after the event has been posted to the website to fill out the evaluation. We welcome your feedback, look forward to hearing from you, and I'm sure our speakers would love to hear from you as well. My name is Dr. Annie Isabel Fukushima. I am the Associate Dean of the Office of Undergraduate Research and the Undergraduate Studies. And just a little bit about the office. The mission of the University of Utah Office of Undergraduate Research is to facilitate and promote undergraduate student, faculty, and collaborative research and creative works in all disciplines throughout the University of Utah campus. In recognition that excellence requires diversity, we pursue this mission through equitable programming that promotes diverse representation and social justice. We acknowledge that this land, which is named for the Ute tribe, is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. The University of Utah recognizes and respects the enduring relationship that exists between many Indigenous people and their traditional homelands. We respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government, and we affirm the University of Utah's commitment to a partnership with Native nations and urban Indian communities through research, education, and community outreach activities. So now, without further ado, I'm super excited to introduce to you our lineup of speakers, as well as our event facilitator. So let me first introduce to you the lineup of speakers that will be on this panel. We'll be hearing from Josh Ayers, who is with ARUP Laboratories. We'll also be hearing from Paul Rindler, who's also with ARUP Laboratories. Michelle Stoller is joining us from bioMérieux, as well as Nicole Monroe. And we will also be hearing from Dr. Tony Nieto, who is the FLSmidth director with the Mining Technology Center, and Deric Holden with Seek Labs. And so we're super excited to have this event facilitated by our partners of the Career and Professional Development Center. So the Assistant Director of Programming, Natalie Pinkney, will be facilitating. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our colleague.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be moderating this panel with such great representation of industry and research experiences. I first want everyone to just introduce themselves, talk about your role and why you believe undergraduate research is a value to your company. And we'll start with Josh.
So I'm Josh Ayers. I'm a talent partner, senior talent partner here at ARUP Laboratories here in Research Park. We are a division of the Department of Pathology for the University of Utah. I do all of the recruiting and onboarding for our R&D departments, as well as our PharmaDX and clinical trials department. So I'm here on this call more as an introduction of a resource and who you'd be working with coming out of your graduate studies and maybe moving into a master's or PhD program, hoping to help you get on board with ARUP. And I'm joined by my colleague, Paul, who is our manager in R&D.
My name is Paul Rindler. I'm a scientific manager in the R&D division of ARUP Laboratories. I do work a lot with Josh here of late. I've been hiring some folks. And I manage the genomics department and R&D, where we take next generation sequencing and apply that to offering targeted oncology testing, as well as whole genome sequencing. So when I was asked, like, what is it about research experience, both undergraduate and maybe a little graduate, since I hear there's some of those on the phone as well, like, what importance is it to ARUP? Well, I'd say three things. One is, well, it exposes you to what the job is actually like. I mean, it takes a certain mentality to like do science bench work. So seeing that, actually doing it, lets you know if it's a vocation that you actually want to pursue that's somewhat independent of the intellectuals component of it that you get in graduate school. Then I'd say the second thing is like, just having those basic skills just from a vocational point of view opens up a lot of opportunities. ARUP doing the actual clinical testing in our technical operations division. And if you get to the graduate level where you actually start testing hypotheses, then you're looking at a potential job in, say, my group to do research and development of clinical tests that go live. And then lastly, I would say that just research in general to, as a life lesson, learning how to ask questions, answer them, collect data, and then figure out what the next question is. I mean, that's applicable to any scientific problem or just basic life problem that you encounter every day. So I'd say what we're looking for is people that are motivated, inclusive, want to be part of a community. But yeah, I would say that's how the research experience sort of like prepares you for an application at ARUP.
Thank you, Paul. We'll go to Nicole and Michelle.
Yeah, so I'm Nicole. I'm a manager and scientist in the clinical affairs department, and our department does studies that become part of FDA submissions for approval of our products. And so there's a lot of lab work that needs to go in that. And I manage a team of research associates to do that. And when we hire, we do like when people have research experience for a number of reasons. One reason is that it shows us if you are willing to go out and seek opportunities to do research, that means that's something you actually want to do. Also, if you have been exposed to that, you have an idea of whether you like doing research or not, and we have a way to know. We can contact your mentor and see how well you did. And there's a lot of other things that you'll learn beyond doing research. For example, writing a proposal for your project, or just basic time management, going to school while also pursuing a research project. These are all useful skills.
My name is Michelle Stoller. I am a manager and scientist in what we refer to as our IVD device validation component of bioMérieux. So we work closely with clinical in that they are the ones who do the hard work of going out on the sites and finding those samples, and also just testing our current materials. We focus more on the analytical perspective, where we do a lot of benchtop science. And one of the important things about candidates who have undergraduate research is, echoing what Paul and Nicole are saying, is that they actually have the practical experience of being in a lab. And there's something about going through the entire process that tends to occur when you're doing undergraduate research that you can't get when you're just performing lab-based work in a class due to time. So that is definitely something that we look for when we are looking at applicants.
Thank you. We'll go to Dr. Nieto.
Yeah, well, my name is Tony Nieto. I'm the head and director of the Mining Technology Research Center here in Salt Lake City. We are part of this FLSmidth global company. These centers, so just to put it in context, we focus on processing minerals from the earth to make it useful for all the technologies that we are requiring right now, like copper, lithium, everything that we will see now in this new fourth revolution of that we're experiencing in industry, right? So we are now very much interested in looking at what are the skills that we're going to be needing for this new paradigm that we are seeing, and not just in the minerals industry, but everywhere. We believe that in order to move on in the next years and decades, we will be looking into innovation mostly. So as I always stated, innovation is something that is the result of education and teaching, something that you're already doing there at the university, plus research. And research and teaching together will bring you this concept that we are looking for in industry, that is, again, innovation. So we are looking for this new generation of students and grad students that has this mentality of moving ahead with innovative culture. And we can talk about those later on if we have time. But that's what we are looking at in order to start engaging with you guys, you students, you university. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Deric.
Hi, I'm Deric Holden. I come to you from Seek Labs, a small research company in Salt Lake City. I'm a principal scientist. I lead the research and development for about half of the company. Our company does research into 3 broad areas, including therapeutics for pathogens, sensor development for detection and diagnostic equipment, and then sample processing and amplification techniques coming out of samples. I lead everything except the therapeutics, which is handled by somebody else. The question of where does research come into our hiring processes and what we're looking for, and that's a pretty easy one for us. As a small company, we only hire people with prior research experience. We only are a company of about 20 research scientists, and every single one of them comes to us with a couple of years of experience. If they can get that as an undergrad, that's great. We will take that. But we specifically look for people that have that experience. As a small company, we don't have the advantage of hiring people that don't have that. We need people to hit the ground running with our company, and we need people to be able to actively contribute to every aspect of that. So research experience is probably our #1 thing we look for when hiring.
Well, that is great. Thank you to the panelists for introducing yourselves and giving us a little insight. I am really curious if we've gotten a lot of questions from students and even in preparation of this, the kind of research that students should be participating in. Does it matter to your company? You know, especially we have some students on the call who may not come from a STEM background. So curious to know from your experience and with your colleagues, does the type of does the type of research matter in the hiring process? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go for ARUP. I'd say not really. I mean, the skills are fairly transferable. I mean, unlike our really focused tech company counterparts, we're pretty broad here. Like, we have entry-level positions that can utilize, as I said before, the basic skills you get from doing research. But I mean, for us, it's all about clinical testing. In my group, if you can do any sort of like research that has a strong molecular component to it, that will give you the tools to work in, say, my group. But then again, research, just asking questions and testing hypotheses is in and of itself, like, we'll train you to do whatever our focus is here, but it's that general capability that we're looking for.
That's great. Anyone else have anything to add to that?
Well, I'm agreeing on that concept as well. We are not really totally looking for candidates with experience already there. We are more than welcome to bring junior researchers into our team and then just get exposed to projects that we require solutions. And we just need people, candidates, students really motivated to confront those challenges that we are facing, because here minerals are coming from mining sites, and every mine is different, every mineral is different. So we require people that actually can think out of the box, and we have actually a list of very basic skills, but those skills are not like the typical skills. Actually, these are skills that at least I'm interested to look into people, into students, into grad students, is the ability, for example, to invent, to be methodological, to think simple, right, out of the box, and also to be determined. And if you have that plus curiosity, if you have those soft skills, then we will be more than happy to use already your training that you're getting from the university, plus these motivated soft skills, and we will be moving ahead in this quest of moving forward in the industry as a researcher. Yep.
Anyone else have anything to input?
Yeah, I do. I do have to say, we have about half the positions that we employ. I do require that their research be in at least the STEM field, particularly in chemistry or biology or a related area. And that's because of the nature of what we're doing. We don't hire people that come from research backgrounds other than that. But within those STEM fields, we will take a wide variety of people. What we're really looking for, as some of the other people have said, is the ability to do research, the things that you just learn while doing it, the ability to overcome problems, the ability to go above and beyond just simply doing things for the first time or doing stuff by rote. We're looking for problem-solving techniques. However, saying that, we have about the other half of the positions, we are specifically looking for people with an exact research background, even coming right out of coming right out of undergraduate school. We have some very specific positions that we look into therapeutics or into sample processing, where if you don't have research in exactly that, I really won't even look at your resume.
So it's important for students to know as they're applying to different companies what is particular and what you're looking for. Some of you, it's about the transferable skills, those soft skills, and some of it is really relevant because small staffing sizes and what you're capable of doing. I want to talk more about those transferable skills as students are participating in undergraduate research. What are some things that they should keep in mind so that when they come, to your interview, that they're presenting themselves in the best way to be competitive for the job? Whoever wants to go first. Nicole?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about how to present your research. I think talking about your research presents an opportunity to show how you think about a project you've done and how well you can explain it, and why you chose to do that and how that relates to the position you're applying to, even if it is not related. Say you did some social science research and now you'd like to do clinical research in molecular methods. I think you can still find a lot of applicable skills, and so it's important to just highlight those and not just say, oh, I did that research project, but I didn't really take anything home from it, and now I'm just looking for a job. So if you can connect the two, I think that will be good.
Yeah, I would echo for a lot of what's required in clinical is also required in our department, but we tend to even be more, I would say, molecularly based and microbiology. So our candidates that we tend to focus on are ones that have had direct research in those areas. But the bigger thing is when we talk to people who have performed undergraduate research, we do focus on how they talk about the research, whether they learned anything from it, if they made choices and helped drive the path of that research, or they just did only what their supervisor or grad student told them what to do. So troubleshooting for us is also a really important skill that we look for in our candidates.
Okay, we got a little lag, but I think we heard the end of that. Thank you, Bob.
Can I compliment what they have just said?
Of course.
Yes, I think it's key to show folks how you think when you're interviewing for a scientific position. But at the same time, one thing that's harder sometimes to showcase is like the manual skills you have, like the what you're actually able to do at the bench. Like if you're able to use a pipette, then you can do most of like what my group does and a lot of like ARUP does. So your experience with different platforms of equipment, if your college makes available, like diverse recent technology, whatever, but then also the basic like just hands-on hammer, screwdriver sort of equivalents, those to be able to portray those skills as well, I think is also important in the context of like how you think and use those tools.
Yeah, that's also I forgot to mention guys about my background before. having this role as director of the center. I used to teach at Penn State for 15 years. My background also is in academics, so I used to be a professor. So now with this new role that I have here as director of the center, I can see kind of better the contrast that we see of having theoretical research versus applied research. And following what my colleagues are saying right now, I totally agree with that. And one of the other points that I'd suggest for you guys, I'm talking to students right now, is if you're looking into a job in the next semester, next year, one of the hints I can give you is go and check the profile, the background of the company that you are applying, and trying to find out what are the challenges and what are the projects that they're working on. Think about how you're going to solve those using already your research training, and just go ahead and propose those during your interview. Don't think about the interview just like a general interview, back and forth with questions and try to survive the interview. No, you need to go focus saying, okay, I know what your issues are, what are your challenges, and I think I can help you in this way, very specific. And I think that will totally grab my attention, and I think my friends here as well. Yeah, that's my advice.
Great, very great input. Some of you have alluded to both undergraduate and graduate with research experience. Does your company have experience for folks who want to come right out of school into your program from their undergraduate, or do you prefer graduate students? If you can talk about those differences.
Well, I can say for my group, yes, even in R&D, we have slots. Like there's the scientist track, which typically, an advanced degree is required. But then we do also have associate scientists and technologists like positions that help support the scientific efforts of like validating new clinical, highly impactful tests. So yes, it's a mixed bag. So don't think that having one or not the other precludes you from opportunities. Plus, within I've had associate scientists, graduate, so to speak, to the scientist track, so experience does count for a lot. If you can get in the door, even with say a bachelor's, I mean, you can work your way up, it just depends on what you bring to the game.
Exactly. Same here with FLSmidth. We can look into undergrad researchers, grad researchers. We have a junior and senior levels. And if you are coming as a junior, just from your bachelor's degree, you're more than welcome if you show the skills that, again, we're looking at your level. And that means willing to really get engaged and learn the process that we're following. And of course, looking in new ways to do it. Also at the graduate level, we have senior positions that will require a little bit more training skills in research. But yeah, both of them are totally welcome in applying for our corporation right here. Yep.
So we at bioMérieux have a lot of different positions, basically for your different educational levels. Nicole and I have doctorate degrees, and we're scientists. We have what we call different tracks for research associates. So you have an RA1 that is usually fresh out of undergrad, and we love having RA1s. Then we also have RA2s, and you have your RA3 who usually will have, most of the time will have a master's degree. We also have scientists who have master's degrees that have had experience previously in industry. So we have a multitude of different positions based on your educational experience.
Well, it looks like there are plenty of opportunities for students, whether you are an undergraduate or graduate. My next question is one of our student questions, which is, and I know you all are heavily in the STEM realm, but curious to know if you've had colleagues to transition to other fields and used their research to maybe get into those other opportunities.
You mean outside STEM?
Yeah.
And into STEM, okay, applications.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's always, I mean, if the student shows motivation, I mean, that's one of the things I always look into in the interview process. If the student really is motivated and he can, we can see that spark, in their eyes, like, yes, I'm interested in this job and I'm really motivated. And again, she or he is showing some way to engage, even though that she's coming from another field, but she has a pretty good idea of how we actually want to, or he want to move on within our company. I mean, we're always welcome. I believe that every student, every candidate, if he has the motivation and he has that state of mind in a way that is relaxed and and willing to change ways of his standard way of thinking in order to solve an issue. Why not? I mean, in mining, this is related to mining. Sometimes now we see this trend of getting archaeologists into mining, and that's at the beginning may sound like contrasting, but I think it's sometimes brings interesting results, combining different cultures, different backgrounds. Multidisciplinary research is something that you're seeing now everyone else every now and then. So multidisciplinary approaches to solutions are always welcome. Yeah.
I'd like to say for ARUP that sure, diverse backgrounds is totally doable. That's not STEM. I mean, honestly, so like R&D at ARUP, I think we constitute about 100 employees of like 4,000, I think is the total number we have. So a lot of jobs here are, executing clinical testing, right? Which in a way, with just a few skills, you don't have to have a STEM background in order to like get a job in that part of the company. And whenever I post a job, those are circulated internally. So actually one of the associate scientists I have right now didn't really have a STEM background, was very just big into like rock climbing and had a job here. And then she had a great affinity for it. She applied for associate scientist position. She got it. And now we're actually sponsoring her to get I forget what it's called. It's a biomedical computing science degree, which bioinformatics is huge for us in the genomics world. So like, yeah, you never know. It's like, if you've seen Ratatouille, right? A scientist could come from anywhere, right? So I don't think it's a total requirement. You just have to, like, as other panelists are saying, you have to like to ask questions, like to recognize problems, like to solve those problems in a way that impacts others. You do that, I don't personally think it has to be a STEM background, because that's the attitude and the fire, I think, that we're looking for. Just, yeah.
So our candidates typically have a STEM background, but I think the question also asked if people go into other fields from the lab position that they hold. And I have seen people transition to things that are related, but not in the lab. So for example, people start administrative work to enroll clinical specimens, so they will travel to hospitals and work with study sites. We have people who have gone to clinical data management or to post-market surveillance, which is something every medical device manufacturer has to do. That just means we have to make sure our product functions in the field as advertised. And so people move on into other roles where they can then use their previous research experience and the experience they have gained working in our group.
Awesome, thank you for that. Thinking about the industry that you're in and the lab work that your companies participate in, I'm curious to know when students are investigating whether or not to apply, are you all looking for, and some of you alluded to, innovation, or are you more so looking for folks to continue to work on projects that you already have in the works? Maybe if you can talk more about the opportunities of research within the industry and how you look for candidates when you're applying to either continue that work or even bring new innovation.
Excellent. Well, since I mentioned about innovation briefly in my intro, let me just quickly go a little bit deeper into that concept. What we're seeing now is that not just mining, but any other industry, I'm sure my friends here as well, Paul, Deric, they are seeing that we are always looking into potential disruptions of technology that can actually threaten our businesses. So we need to compensate that and protect ourselves of being disrupted or being displaced by the competition if we don't innovate, right? So innovation is becoming a really important business strategy into any company. Innovation is no longer just a soft kind of vision and objective that the companies used to do. Now it's part of the business strategy, and it is heavily embedded into the cash flows of companies. So we need, again, people that is looking into embracing innovation as part of their job, and making sure that they can help and provide value to the company by doing innovation. And innovation, again, the good news, innovation, if you open the innovation concept, you will see inside education, and you will see research. Education meaning creating knowledge and transferring that knowledge, and then the research is the enhancing of that knowledge. Those two together brings you that innovation in systems, innovation in products, in services. And I think that's the key for any new modern company. So I think innovation is key nowadays.
If I may,
Oh,
I'd like
please.
to add something to that. So innovation at our company is vital. We expect every single employee to spend some time each week looking into different types of innovation, to the point that once a week, I sit down personally with every single group and go over what sorts of innovations and inventions they have discovered within the last week, and we decide whether or not to patent those or pursue them as projects. But this is an active role in our company. Nobody gets by without a week without me harassing about what have they discovered in the last week. And a lot of times the answer is nothing, because science doesn't always move that fast. But the mindset of pushing that innovation and pushing research beyond what's currently being done is highly valued at our company.
So we have, in my group, it's rather interesting because since we are part of a validation team, innovation is something different than your standard R&D or your research and innovation division. We have those divisions here. We have certain studies that we need to do in a certain way in order for our device to get submitted to the FDA and be cleared for sale. However, we do rely on certain aspects of creativity and thinking when it comes to problem solving in our different studies. So innovation for us is more falls in line with that creativity and ability to problem solve than necessarily developing brand new technology. So.
Yeah, I can echo that. Sometimes, because the clinical trial is not the time to innovate. You can't change anything about the product, and you want to have your process down before you start testing those 2,000 specimens that are very expensive to procure. And so sometimes we're taken aback when people apply and just say, oh, I love science and I want to just test hypotheses. And then we're just taking, that's not what we do in a clinical trial. And so we just explain what we do, and that's not what they're going to be doing on our team. But that doesn't mean it's boring. And it's still challenging because you have to really make sure you follow the process exactly, and every specimen is tested in the same way so that the data is of high integrity and everything is perfect. There's no deviation from the procedure. And so there are other challenges, being very efficient and very making sure all the data is correct.
I'd like to echo Nicole's echo there, that and I think we started this off by, if you're applying to a company, look at what they do, right, to see what you need to like bring to the game. And I'll echo Nicole at all there, that in the light that ARUP, we're a reference lab. Our mission is to do diverse like clinical testing for as many patients as we can. So in R&D, when we're developing tests, we're using existing technology. We're not driving the bleeding edge there. We're just trying to be creative with existing technology to create testing that's impactful for patients. And then we are a business, so we're trying to sell that. So that drives being like at least ahead of the game as much as we can be in the clinical testing environment. But as far as innovation goes, no, we are capitalizing on existing technology, and we have to go through validation processes just like our colleagues here. So, you know, you got to lock it down and like standardize the test rigorously, you know, make sure that it works, and then you can market it in a safe way to, well, consumers or patients.
Great insight. I see we've got some student questions coming in. If you are wanting to ask our panelists some questions, please put it in the Q&A and I'll ask it to the panelists. And I'll actually start with the first one here. What stands out most when interviewing a candidate besides their research experience and innovation mindset?
So on our team, we really look for people who can work well within a team environment. We do have a team of 12 research associates, and they coordinate every day who's going to do what, and they need to communicate very well and be able to take feedback and to give feedback and not take that personal and just all get along. And and so that's really important to us.
That is exactly the same. Ditto.
Yeah, on my side, when I interview students or candidates, I mean, I don't care much if they got the best grades or you know, they have they're the number one in their class. No, what I'm actually interested is in that spark. You know, that they need to show that they're really motivated and they are willing to confront challenges and do it in a positive way, and also try to show that you can work in teams, that you can work with people, that you can see out of the box, and that's it. I think we can, then you are inside with our team, then we can go ahead and take his hand and her hand and move on. But I think it's important to see that excitement, that willing to do things and engaged, and you know what, one of the hints that I always tell my students is just be bold, try to break out those circles of comfort, because one of the things that we have all guys in research is that we tend to be introvertives. We try to be, you know, in our circle of comfort, and that's it. But if you're willing to break those circles, break out and move on and take risk and accept challenges, and you can show that in the interview, fine, totally fine, welcome.
May I? So we have, very similar to everybody else, the things we're looking for outside of technical or background is things that mesh well with our company culture. As a smaller company, we are highly selective about who we hire. It only really takes one bad apple to ruin everything. And I'm sure that's true of every company, because you bring in one person that just destroys the team and the whole team falls apart. So we do select heavily for things like behavior, or just one of the bigger things is, as just mentioned, was passion. We like it when people are highly enthusiastic about something. Hopefully it's their research. If nothing else, tell me about your dog. I just want to know that you are passionate about something and that you get excited, not just mundane and everyday life kind of stuff.
Really great responses. If your company has internship opportunities, what students would love to know more about, you know, how can they get involved with internships, or if you're even currently hiring, love to highlight that right now.
Hey, Natalie. So we actually, we kind of run an internship program, but a lot of times we have interested students that just send me their resumes and reach out to me directly. A lot of times we can create internships. I can work with the managers to create projects, meaningful projects that are going to benefit both us and the students. So while we may not have an internship posted currently, we're always looking for projects and people that are interested. So, and whether that's in R&D or in actually one of our labs, we do quite a few internships every summer.
I can't speak to internships at this point, but we do have currently in my division, we have a couple of entry-level positions open. So if you go to our website, you'll say research associate 1, 2, 1 being more for your standard undergraduate who just graduated, 2 being for someone who's actually maybe had a couple of years of experience outside of undergraduate degree.
Yeah, the clinical affairs team also currently has an open RA1 or 2 position. And then as for research, as for interns, since I've been with the company, which is close to 5 years, we haven't had an intern in clinical affairs, but I do know that there are intern positions in R&D, and I've also heard of an internship in regulatory, which is different from R&D, but also valuable experience. So just check out our career site and see what's out there.
Yeah, great. We're also looking always for candidates to apply. Again, we are mining and technology research center. So what we do is we look into ways to process the metals from underground to be used in things like electric motors, computers, iPhones, whatever. All that is metal is coming from our processes here. So if you're interested in that, you have a chemistry background, metallurgical background, mining, let me know. My personal blog where you can send me, I don't know how many students are watching this, but you can go to www.tonynieto.com and you can send me an email and I'll guide you through the process of applying if you are into this field of science and technology. More than welcome to hear from you guys.
We do have an internship program. We typically take 1 or 2 interns a year, but we actually run that through USU. So that doesn't really apply here. Sorry about that. But if you go up to USU, you're welcome to apply. Other than that, we do have periodically, we have openings positions, some for just RA1, some for research scientist 1 or 2s. They don't come along very often. We probably only hire about 4 or 5 people a year as our company is growing. We don't have a lot of turnover. In fact, we haven't had any turnover in a long time, but we don't hire a lot of people. But when it does come, we're always welcome. We're always happy to accept a ton of applications. I guess what it comes down to is if you send me an application and I don't respond to it immediately, that's probably because we just don't have an opening. But in a couple months, we might have one. So always keep checking back and just ping me again in a few months and see what's up.
Great, thank you for that. Another student question has come in. Do companies give support for moving from industry back into an academic research setting?
Yes, we do. We love it when our scientists return back to academics. We highly encourage most of our undergraduates to go back to grad school. We will do whatever we can as a company to make that happen if that works in the best interest of the employees, not necessarily always in the best interest of the company. A company philosophy that we have is just better scientists make better research in general, if it's for us or if it's just for anybody else. Financial assistance is a little harder to come by. But other kind of assistance, we do what we can to have people go back to academics if they can.
Yep, same here. Same here. We always are welcome to hear our employees, looking forward to improve and progress. And if sometimes they want to go back and if they don't have a master's and they want to do a master's degree or they want to do a PhD, we are always looking to find a solution. Now, nowadays, guys, in the university, there are some hybrid online courses that actually facilitate this process of, working at the company and then having these online courses. And sometimes now you can do that. I think it's easier now than before. Pursuing these two. It doesn't have to be one or the other, it can be a combination of both, working during the week and then taking some courses online and having your master's. I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
And also, Natalie, we have a tuition reimbursement program. Starts at 42% of the undergrad rate for the U of U, so they can go to other institutions, but obviously, we're partnered with the U. We strongly encourage our students. We have a lot of students actually working on their undergrad or even their master's currently that work for us because we do offer a lot of flexibility in our schedules. We do also have our own internal education department too, where we have professional and personal growth. So we have a lot of those classes internally. So we're going to always foster continuing education across all of our positions.
We've had a few research associates pursue master's degrees on the side, and we do offer some tuition reimbursement. It might not be as much as ARUP, but there is some. And we had a couple of people move on to go to medical school or PA school after working on our team.
Great. We've got lots of support for academic settings and transitions. We have a student here, a graduate student that has a question wondering about postdoc experience and if that is necessary before applying to some of the industry positions.
So I actually did some postdoctoral work at the U before I came here. I would say it depends on the position. It depends on what they're looking for. You don't necessarily have to have postdoctoral experience to be a scientist. RAs definitely, obviously, you're not going to be in a postdoc and then become an RA. So it would say it just depends, honestly. I don't know, Nicole, if you have any addition to that.
I did a very long postdoc because I really enjoyed it, but it's not required to get the job that I do. I have a colleague who does the exact same work and started right out of her PhD, and she does just as well as I do. So I do think that I have learned valuable things, but I don't think it's necessarily valued. You can learn the same thing on the job.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that too. So like I did 2 postdocs, didn't really like either of them, and the funding just dried up. So I came to ARUP largely for job stability in a way. But I would say for postdoc versus not, our group has hired both. I would say postdocs, as a graduate student, theoretically in a healthy like lab or graduate environment, you should have support from other graduate students as well as your PI. But then once you get to the postdoc level, you're kind of thrown into the water to like be independent, run the show yourself, because you're heading towards being a principal investigator like your graduate student mentor is. So I would say that it does make a difference, because in at ARUP, as you move up in the scientist rank in what you do, the higher you go up, the more independence is required. So that does give you, say, leverage to maybe come in at a higher position, but that in no way precludes you from coming in at, say, a scientist 1 by having no postdoc experience, because honestly, as I said before, the graduate part teaches you kind of how to think, and that's what I'm looking at. And we can develop independence, but we're heavily team-based environment too. So, it's not required.
Thank you. We have another question here. When things don't go perfectly in an industrial lab, what does a troubleshooting process look like compared to an academic research lab?
More time pressure. I mean, but the process is still the same, right? Troubleshooting, like whether it's an academic or in an industry. Yes, I would say in industry, it's more time is of the essence, right? Because you're competing in a market where you're trying to grow your company. So, I would just say the process is the same, but just do consider that element of being in a business that's trying to survive in a market space. Where academics, it's similar because you're competing for a pot of research money, but it's having been there, I'd say there's less the pressure is on you as a postdoc to get out and get a job, right? That's the main pressure I felt, but in industry it's a little bit more.
Really insightful. And actually goes to another student question that we received, which is there research that isn't based on profits? And it kind of sounds like maybe the short answer is no, because at the end of the day, it is a business. So that's what the difference is with academics. If anyone else has anything to add there.
Well, yes and no. Once you are out from the university, you have 2 outcomes. One is working for labs or centers of research at the private sector. The other one is at the government sector. And if you end up working with an agency like Sandia Labs or, one of those national big research centers, then you don't necessarily be working for profits, but more for outcomes or for strategic objectives. So that can be these two outcomes that you may face eventually as a grad student. Yeah.
And ARUP, we're nonprofit, but the harsh reality is if we're going to keep the doors open and do patient testing, we have to earn revenue that feeds into R&D. So yes, the market component's always there, but you know, we're helping patients. Everything we do, there's a person at the other end of this, right? And we reinvest all of our money into our employees as well as our research efforts. So you know, it's a gray area there. What's profit and what's not?
Exactly.
I agree with that. I think that in the R&D and regulatory clinical space, we are not thinking about how much money the panel is going to make. We're thinking about what panel to develop to best address market needs and basically the needs of the healthcare, the patient, and then also at the end of the process when the clinical trials and analytical studies are going on, we want to ensure the product functions and is safe to use for the patient. So that's our goal. And if it makes money, that's great too, because I like to keep my job.
I just wanted to comment on this real quick. As an investor driven company, we don't have any other revenue at the moment. It's a startup company. Everything we do it better be designed to generate some sort of revenue. Now, that doesn't have to be an immediate thing. We do have a pipeline that sometimes is years out, but if it doesn't have at least some sort of return on investment for our investors, we're probably not going to dedicate a lot of time and resources to that.
Yeah, one of the things, so I actually forgot to mention, guys, about my job, and that's why I feel my job is kind of cool, is that here in this center in Salt Lake City, we do a lot of testing and research. And actually my budget per year, you know, what we're looking for is totally a break-even end of the year cash flow. We don't really look for profits because, and this is one reason for that, is because if we are successful with our testing here and research at this level, then this translates into, you know, developing equipment and technologies that eventually the companies will use. So we are kind of a niche within the company that is isolated from this profit gaining and the pressure that you see on the business guys on the other side of the business. But here in this center, yeah, it's a cool thing. It's almost like academia. It's like we really are looking into results for testing and making sure that we have the best engineering and solutions, and that's it. But yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys.
Okay, great. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. I know we have a request for some contact information, and if you're a panelist, I don't think we have an opportunity to message everyone, so maybe we'll give it the contact info to Annie and she can send it out to everyone here who is participating. But one of our questions comes from a student asking how they should equip themselves to learn how to negotiate salary, benefits, or equity when moving from graduate school into a non-academic job market. I'll first start by plugging my office, the Center of Professional Development Center. If you haven't scheduled an appointment with one of our career coaches, we'd be happy to talk through those negotiation skills as well. So definitely check us out at careers.utah.edu, but also give it over to you all for what you know works best in your field and within the industry. So negotiation skills are graduate school.
You know, from my humble point of view, you know what I think you should do, guys, you students, is to look into the on internet, what is the range of salaries that you're expecting for that role. So you don't have to worry about, you know, concentrating and focusing on the salary and the wages that you're gonna get during the interview. What you need to show during the interview is that you really want to engage and you want to bring value to the company. And of course, the salary compensation will come along with that at the end. So first of all, just show that you have the capabilities and the skills and the abilities and the willing to do it. And then the interviewer, we will say, oh, listen, this is the salary we can offer you. And then that's when you start saying, okay, listen, I look into the internet, I made my homework, and I know this is the range, but that's it. Keep it at the end. Don't stress too much into that at the beginning. Otherwise, it will distract you from really what is important in the interview process.
Josh, I know you're in talent acquisitions. Do you have any advice for students about negotiating benefits, salary, or even equity?
So I do think that should be, let's see if you're interested in the position, what you can bring to the table. It is a two-way street. We want to see what you can bring, and we want to see what we can provide you. So typically we do not have those salary discussions in the first interview. You should really be having those with someone like me, a talent acquisition partner, someone in HR, so we can give you the full benefit package. I think a lot of people see that dollar sign first, and as Tony mentioned, that's a very, very big distraction. And a lot of times that's just that could be just the minimum pay. You know, we're going to negotiate based on your experience and what you bring to the table. So I always encourage people, let's go focus on that first interview, see if this job is even for you, and then reach out to the recruiter and you can ask those type of questions.
Great.
So I would just throw in for bioMérieux, for example, we as the hiring managers do not actually handle initially any of the salary negotiations. That is done through HR and basically our talent acquisition. So those are things that, just as Josh said, you know, focus on the interview. Eventually you'll get to that point, but the initial interview is not necessarily the best place to bring that up that question.
I mean, we can pay you a lot to work with people you don't want to work with, but what's the point, right? I mean, you know, we want to make sure that you fit with us and we fit with you, and then go from there.
Great advice. Well, we have 1 minute left. So as a quick around the horn, I have a student here that interested in what type of new hire training and development are received at your company. So maybe you can answer that, and then any other last minute advice that you have for students. And we can start with Josh.
So we actually have, it's called LEAP, it's our internal education. So we have both corporate, or you could say company-wide, just updates on HIPAA, things like that. We also have department-specific training that could, honestly, I tell people it takes a year to really feel comfortable in that role, if not more. But we also have we have IFL, our internal education department, which also offers additional things that maybe they can learn that are outside of their expertise that they want to do. And that's anything from learning Excel to professional development to presentations, things like that. So we offer, I would say, ongoing training. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to always encourage that, encourage people to continue their education.
I think if I understand the question, so like continued or development of new employees, was that the question?
Yes, and I think
Okay.
Josh probably answered that, but you can also any last minute advice with now that our time is wrapping up too.
Oh, well, I don't really have any last minute advice. I did want to echo what he's saying. And then I would say we're academic and industry. We kind of like, you know, blur the line there. So like as a scientist here, it's still continued like exposure to sort of like an academic environment where there's on board mentorship from the beginning from senior folks that can help you do and grow into the scientists that we're looking for here. I'll just say that.
Perfect. On my side, guys, just again, hints for you guys looking for a new job. Be bold, break your circles of comfort, and look into make sure that you have these 5 simple skills or hints in your mind when you're looking for a job. Just make sure that you show that you are curious, that you are inventive, that you have your methodological, that you can go through processes in a thinking way. Think simple. That will help you a lot in the process once you get your job, and be determined. Be stubborn, but in a good way. And I think that will take you way ahead in your career, guys. Those are my advices.
I think it's difficult sometimes when you're in school to understand all the opportunities available to you. You may have a very limited idea of what you can do with your degree. And I think that it's important to talk to people who are already in the workforce to see what they do and what all the different things are that you could be doing, just to get an idea where you might fit in well.
Awesome. Well, I think that is it for our presentation. Thank you all for joining us. I'll hand it back over to you, Annie.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Please don't forget to go ahead and fill out the evaluation. The Office of Undergraduate Research is always available to you at our.utah.edu. We thank you for listening in to this session, tuning in live. And for those that will be joining us after the event is posted, we are excited to share this information with you. I want to thank our panelists and our partners as well. And thank you, everyone.